everyone, welcome back to Blooms and Bicycles. Hope you had a great start to the year. Cycling into the Valentine season gives us the opportunity to do two things. First, celebrate romance if we have it. Second, let some of the people in our lives know that they are not on their own. Traditionally, Valentine's Day has been geared towards love in the romantic sense of the word, but then there's love in the family and platonic sense of the word too. Ultimately, they all come from the same place, the heart. So whilst not everybody has a romantic partner in their life, this can make the perfect opportunity to let people know they are still very much loved all the same. And because of this, we have decided to create the Valentine's flower collection to include symbols of admiration, appreciation, gratitude, and sincerity alongside the symbols of love. Making up the fundamental components, which have to come hand in hand for a love in the truest sense to exist, our Valentine's letterbox flowers encapsulate the essence of all the loves in all their forms. Focusing primarily on the rose flower, an assortment of many varieties are combined. Each with their own unique swirls, together they create an incredible display of geometric patterns similar to those that can be found in the kaleidoscope. And just like the individuals behind each relationship, the swirls start in their own place, in between different petals. And just like the journeys of understanding we each go on with one another, the more we follow the swirls, the closer we find they become. And although those swirls may not necessarily follow the conventional circular shape as expected, and as so many of the garden varieties show us, if we persist, then eventually we arrive at the same centre petals, a place which some may call destiny. In today's tutorial, we'll be sharing with you how to construct the large Valentine's letterbox flowers. Today we've already prepared our water vessel with the flower feed and the water. However, if you would like to learn what to do to look after your flowers and ensure they last as long as possible, you can always refer to the flower care video in the description box below. So to make a start, as we always do, we're going to take the strongest of stems, and in this collection we have decided to bring together a number of different eucalyptus varieties to build out our greenery within the flower grid. So with this first variety, which is called parvifolia, it's a very sturdy stem with this particular piece, and that will be perfectly positioned if sweeping off to the left, because it already has a natural lean in that direction. So now taking a look at the other stems that we have, this piece of parvifolia wants to go in the opposite direction, which means that would be ideal, placed to the right. And just to note, it doesn't actually go all the way to the bottom of the vase. The base of the stem is actually sat up the side of the vase, as we've discussed in previous videos. That's because when we're building out our flower grid, it provides structure for our stems in such a way where they don't have to sit at the bottom. So just making sure the water vessel is always topped up with water as much as needed to give everything a good drink. So now to take our Cinerea, again a very strong upright stem. This would be ideal if placed towards the back to create some height. And with the more sweeping variety of Nicolai, which is always my favourite, it has a beautiful cascading effect because the branches are so long and sweeping, as you can see, and it always sounds very nice too. It has a good rustle to it, and they all smell beautiful. They'll definitely freshen up the air in the room. So this one will be ideal placed towards the front, and maybe this one towards the back, playing to the advantage of their shapes again. So now we have a star formation created with our grid so far, and therefore this populous variety of eucalyptus will be ideal if just placed standing upright in the very centre. So now to take our red rose stems. You'll receive 6 different rose stems, each a different variety, to offer different geometric swirls, and therefore lots of points of interest, as we always talk about. So we'll just cut these to varying heights to create 2 different triangles, or a 6-point star if you will. So positioning this smaller garden rose 1 towards the front because the stem is much thinner and delicate and shorter. It therefore allows us the opportunity to use the longer stems towards the back and the middle area too. So always cutting on the angle. We'll take any outer petals away. As we discussed in our flower care video, the outer petals on a rose are just the byproduct of the bud. They are the outer petals that protect the bud whilst it's grown into the full flower. You can leave these on if you want to go for a real rustic garden style, or you can just take them off. And if you do choose to take them off, it will just mean that your rose will last that little bit longer. And see how the eucalyptus is really holding into position the flowers so far. And it smells incredible here. And now with our final 2 red roses, because we've cut down quite relative to the height of the opening on the vessel, some of the other roses towards the front, it's probably a good opportunity to make use of the long stems on these other 2 by placing them towards the back. Although maybe not too long, because we still want it to look proportionate to everything else that's gone into the design so far. I think that looks better. And now to add our soft pink roses. Again, each one is a different variety. So taking the smaller garden varieties, we'll place these towards the front because their slender, delicate stems allow them to lean out towards the front to create that cascading effect. So we now have a bit of a negative void here in between the red roses on the right hand side, which means that peach one will nicely break it up. And on the note of the peach rose, which we've now just added, the reason we've incorporated this into our Valentine's flower collection designs is because the peach rose is symbolic of gratitude. And in a similar way, with the pale pink rose, which symbolises sincerity, the hot pink roses symbolise appreciation. So just working to the magic of 3 to build out those triangles again. So now we'll just add in our apricot coloured rose towards the front, because now we have a beautiful distribution of the lilac-y pink tones in the garden rose off to the left, with the hot pink and peach colours as well as the reds towards the centre in the right. So we have a real variety going on now. So next to add our fuchsia pink and cerise pink roses. To help create that natural fan effect, we'll position this so the base of the stem sits up the side of the vase, as we discussed earlier with the other type. And maybe just to break that red up slightly, we'll gently add in this second pink cerise rose so it sits in the grid, holding its position above the base of the vase and being supported by the eucalyptus. Perfect. And now to take our final rose, which again is in a very delicate soft pink colour. Given it's so tall, we'll add this towards the back to complete that fan shape, and because it'll add some contrast to the red roses which sit in front. So now to take our asparagus ferns, which all grow very sporadically, as you can see. And by the time you trim these down into various pieces, you'll actually have quite a lot of material to work with. We want to create smaller pieces that will weave in between the flowers and allow for support of the Astilbe candle-shaped stems to come. We therefore don't want them to dominate what's been added so far, and therefore want them to be relatively short. So we now have 2 stems of similar height, and we can do that again with this other piece. So trimming away just above the offshoot. In this instance, one stem will be significantly shorter than the other one, but again, because we are using these for support and to add some depth with texture. We don't want them to be too long or sit too prominently, so being short is good. And it is such a flexible material, which makes it really easy to work with. You can just wrap it around flower heads as you see fit. As well as offering varying points of interest with the greenery, it almost gives a cloud, a natural cloud, for the Astilbes to hold a really prominent position. And on the note of Astilbes, we have 3 different varieties which are different sizes. So the softer pink and purple one are going to be smaller than the fuchsia pink one. So the fuchsia pink one is ideally positioned towards the back. So if we just weave it in between the asparagus ferns just added, and find a gap in the eucalyptus grid that we've created so far. And now, with our other 2 Astilbes, just thinking about distribution of colours to create that natural balance. It might just be nice to have the soft pink one in the middle section to help finally build out the left-hand side of the fan shape. And now that we've done that, it will allow for the purple one, which is really the smallest out of the 3 anyway, to be added very appropriately at the front. So we've trimmed that down significantly, as you can see. And again, just to add to the array of colours and points of interest, this will now look perfect if woven in between the asparagus ferns just there. And see how that is holding itself in its own gap, because the asparagus ferns underneath have wrapped themselves naturally around it. And now to take the traditional symbol of romance and prosperity, the peach blossom, which is actually in season at the moment during the months of January and February, is beautiful. When it comes to you, even though it's been cut away from the tree already, if it's kept in water, these buds will actually start to grow. Not all of them will make it into a fully open flower, but even just the splashes of pink that are offered by the bud is gorgeous. And for the odd one that does burst into bloom, it's like a little star-shaped flower. You could also make a cutting out of these, which we'll talk to you about in a separate tutorial in the future. Because there's actually many varieties throughout our different collections which could give you the opportunity to create cuttings from. So I've just twirled the peach blossom there to make sure the offshoot with the most pink flowers is most prominent. And now to take our final 2 stems of Hypericum, one in pale pink and one in red. Given how much of the pale pink distribution is already now going on the left-hand side of the design, if we add the Hypericum in to complete the design and making the most of that final negative void just in front of the peach blossom. So now to add our final red Hypericum towards the back, creating a backdrop of different textures to the roses just behind the peach blossom. So there you have it, the large Valentine's letterbox flowers. I hope you enjoyed the rest of February, and we're so excited to come back to you around March time for the start of spring and what then becomes blossom season for our blossom season flower collection. Bye for now.